Now let's begin with developmental issue in Africa. The African Union held its first extraordinary humanitarian summit and pledging conference in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea recently, with President Muhammadu Buhari and his wife Aisha in attendance. At the conference, solutions to the myriad of challenges bedeviling Africa took center stage. The Africa First Ladies Peace Mission, chaired by Nigeria's First Lady Aisha Buhari, pledges commitment to complementing efforts of the African Union and encourage inclusion of women and youths in implementation of strategies for a peaceful Africa. Let's share this story by TVC News' Moyo Thomas with you.
Solutions to the myriad of challenges bedeviling the African continent was the major focus of the Fourth African Union Extraordinary Humanitarian Summit and Pledging Conference, which held in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. The Extraordinary Summit was attended by about 20 African leaders, high-level representatives from the United Nations and other donor agencies. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari also attended with his wife. Protracted conflict and insecurity, climate change, underdevelopment, downturn in economies on the continent, further propelled by the harsh impact of COVID-19. These threats to democratic stability has placed the African continent in a precarious position, with an increasing need for humanitarian assistance.
De cette réunion du Conseil exécutif de l'Union africaine,
worrying to the African Union Commission's chairperson, Musa Faki Muhammad, is the fact that 113 million Africans are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance in 2022, including 48 million refugees, asylum seekers, and internally displaced persons. The African Union's chairperson and president of Senegal, Macky Sall, tasked other leaders on the continent to tackle the root causes of humanitarian crisis to enable the continent focus on more developmental initiatives. The United Nations Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator, Martin Griffith, and the Executive Director of the United Nations Population Fund, Natalia Kanem, urged member nations and other donors to invest in humanitarian response, peace and stability, while also prioritizing the needs and rights of women and girls in order to unleash greater progress. The need to truly see an end to these challenges propelled African leaders and other donors to support the newly created African Union Humanitarian Agency. Achieving a compelling result in addressing these humanitarian challenges requires the input of women. The African First Ladies Peace Mission, chaired by Nigeria's First Lady Aisha Buhari, pledges their commitment to complementing efforts of the African Union. They promise to advance the cause of peace, harmony, and development on the continent, and to work at achieving the AU Agenda 2063 and UN Security Council Resolution 1325.
Work closely with the AU Special Envoy on women, peace and security to ensure that our interventions are aligned with those of the African Union. Commit to the achievement of Agenda 2026 and United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325. Embark on programs that focus on peace building, education, health, and women empowerment. Collaboration with African parliaments and legislative institutions in support of broader engagements and gender mainstreaming in peace campaign activities and other efforts at conflict resolution.
Mrs. Buhari encouraged inclusion of women and youth in the design and implementation of strategies for a peaceful Africa. Collective and coordinated approach will go a long way in helping the continent get out of the trenches of developmental challenges that continues to impoverish our people. Beyond this, dialogue and exploring innovative solutions that is inclusive of all segments of the African continent will bring an undeniable payoff. Moyo Thomas, TVC News.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, just like I said a little earlier, PKO, Babajide Kolade and Dr. Ladapo, thank you so much, gentlemen, once again, for being here. So, looking at the report we just saw, we know that the president, the president's wife, Aisha Buhari, has always advocated, young and women, the youth and women, to always be included when it comes to issues of development and all that. And Africa generally, we know that one of the issues we have, one of the problems we have, is attaining peaceful society. What do you think the inclusion of youth and women will bring to the table?
Yes, we need to get our young people engaged. We need to make them feel wanted. We need to create the environment that is welcoming to them, so that we can feast on their bright ideas and inventive nature. You see young people these days, they are very creative. They are brimming with ideas. The best we can do is to provide that platform for these young people to be able to blossom, to be able to contribute to nation building. The same thing goes for women. We want to see more and more women involved in nation building, more and more women in parliament to take part in lawmaking in our country, more and more women even as governors or deputy governors. The president's wife has been pushing hard to have us improve across all these parameters. Remember some years back, she was involved even through her NGO, Future Assured, in distributing food items to IDPs. In fact, on a particular occasion, the humanitarian workers were even attacked by Boko Haram fighters. But what will please Aisha Buhari a lot more is for us to achieve peace. Because when we achieve peace, some of these interventions to the internally displaced persons will be unnecessary. So she will be happy to complement the efforts of the African Union in her own place as the chairperson of the African First Ladies Peace Mission, to work hard to ensure that we have peace, so that a lot of our people who have been displaced from their homes can return to their homes. No one is happy to live outside of his home, to scavenge for food, to depend on handouts from other people just because there's no peace.
Yeah. Right, Dr. Ladipo, well, we know that humanitarian issues, just like you also mentioned, people, internally displaced persons, insurgency and so on and so forth. But also, in the African setting, we know that it's usually men at the forefront all the time. Men, any little thing, you talk about the men. But the women's position is supposed to be in the home. We clamored for 35% affirmative action in all of this. But do you think that is attainable when it comes to attaining peace and having women and youth particularly in the fray?
Well, the 35% affirmative action looks far-fetched in terms of being attained in Africa and even in Nigeria, where we see the place of women largely at home. But the danger in all of this is the fact that that population can't be taken for granted. As at 2020, the women population in Africa was 50.1% of the entire population. In Nigeria, where we estimate that we're about 200 million, the women population as at 2020 was 101.67 million. And that's a huge number, a little more than the male. So it tells us that we cannot, in reality, joke with that segment of the population. Same with the youth. As at 2020, those who are under 35 in Africa, they're about 1 billion. In terms of continental comparison, we are the second to Asia. We are the second to Asia, putting our population in Africa at about 540 million for those who are from 0 to 14, and then 454.5 million for those who are 15 to 24. when you look at this segment, it's a lot. It's really a lot. Africa has about 22.7% of the world's youth population. So if we don't take our time to develop both the women and youth population, we are in for danger. Big trouble ahead. And when you begin to look at what is happening in Africa, especially in Nigeria, you see that a lot of the youths and even women, they are getting more sophisticated. You see them in IT, in things that have capacity for mass development. The only thing that we are lacking is to put a structure in place.
And deploy it
appropriately.
Yeah.
If when you go around the world, you see, you are talking of being technically savvy and all the rest, you find our youth, they rank very high. So when we don't deploy them the positive manner, they're obviously going to deploy it the negative way. And that's why we see that a lot of crimes go undetected, because they are even smarter than those who are watching them. That's the law enforcement agencies. So it's a time, the time has really come. It's a good call, and it should continue until when we achieve what we want. Because leaving this segment, the two, to cater for themselves, is disaster in waiting for.
I think recently I read, I guess is about Senegal, where we have gender parity is actually a part of their laws now, where the political position is meant for 50-50 between men and women in Senegal. That's talking about a country that is getting advanced when it comes to allowing women to participate in decision making in the country. Do you think so?
Yes, Rwanda has even done much better than that. Rwanda is the highest in the world in terms of the number of women in their parliament. Even done better than the Western nations. South Africa too, they are doing very well. Nigeria has a lot to learn in this regard. We have to continue to get involved. To get women involved in nation building. We have seen during the time of President Obasanjo, he used women a lot, and we can see that those women prove themselves. People like Kunjo Iweala, Ezekwesili, even Ndi Okereke in UK, so many of the women came onto the forefront and they delivered the goods. So I would want to see a lot more women given opportunities in our country. It's such a shame that in the whole of northern Nigeria, only one woman in the House of Assembly. It's not good enough. We can do better than that.
All right, because of our time, let's quickly introduce our guest. Joining us for more discussion on this is the Senior Special Assistant to First Lady Aisha Buhari on Public Affairs and Strategy, Mohammed Sani Zoro, a journalist and former lawmaker. Thank you so much for joining us, Honorable Zoro. Zoro.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much, my brothers.
All right, very quickly because of the time.
Good afternoon to everybody.
All right, thank you so much for being here.
You are in Malabo. Can you just bring us up to speed with what happened and the significance of the speech that the First Lady Aisha Buhari made?
Thank you very much, Babajide, and the rest of my colleagues for the opportunity to highlight what transpired in Malabo and actually what we expect to happen after Malabo. Now, you have already seen how African leaders have also prioritized peace and security in their own agenda, because the entire world is more about peace and security than other items on the agenda of world leaders now. Why? The reasons are obvious. There are so many civil conflicts resulting in internal displacement, refugee flows, asylum-seeking populations, and so on and so forth. There is drought that has ravaged the Horn of Africa, which has also produced the same outcomes. refugee flows, internal displacements. In the Sahel region, which Nigeria is also located, we are also confronted with generalized violence in the last 15 years, be it in Mali, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and has continued to engulf so many other countries. Right. In fact, if you do the statistics, you will see that in the 16 member countries of the ECOWAS, probably about 13 of them have already been hit by one civil conflict or another. From Casamance region in the Senegal, which has been on, their crisis has been on for well over 3 decades, to Togo, which was the latest flare-up, in the last 2 weeks, the Volta region of Ghana, and so on and so forth. Now, that is why the African Union decided to prioritize peace and security. And like your correspondent also read out, Mr. Faki, the president of the African Commission, had put the number of displaced persons at about 112 all over Africa. And that there was a pledging conference on the day of the conference itself, the extraordinary summit on the 27th. That pledging conference was to mobilize resources towards interventions in various forms. And Senegal was the first, to pledge $3 million. Nigeria also, came with almost the same amount of money, and there will be so many donors expected to pour in a lot of funding. Now, we have not even talked about Libya, that has been wrecked by armed conflict, and which had served as the source of most of the arms that circulated in the Sahel region and triggered the kind of outcomes that we are having. Now, as for the role of Dr. Mrs. Aisha Buhari, I'm very happy that Babajide, who of course has been monitoring, developments in that office and governance generally in Nigeria very well, has said Aisha Buhari's foundation will be better served, her office will be better served, Nigeria will be better served without conflicts or with less conflicts. And as the proprietor of Aisha Buhari Foundation, it is on record that probably, she may have intervened in humanitarian crisis between 2015 to date, probably more than any other charity or, humanitarian organization that is non-governmental in the country. But specifically, as president of the Africa First Ladies Peace Mission, she has developed a framework that will complement the efforts of the African Union as well as the regional economic commissions, about 5 of them, ECOWAS, SADC, and the rest of them, that will attempt to complement the efforts of the heads of state and government as well as international organizations towards addressing the specific nature of the conflicts or threats to peace, whether in terms of food security, human security, like in Somalia, there has been 4 years of drought, which has seen to the exodus of a huge number of its population, into Kenya and neighboring other countries. Now, internal displacement and refugee flows or migration into other territories normally bring about insecurity, because when refugees go into other countries, they share the limited resources, including water, food, and infrastructure, like housing and the space, which are limited because of the growing population in Africa. And that one brings about friction, and eventually it triggers civil conflicts. For instance, we have had about 140,000 registered
Right. I'm afraid that we're actually losing connectivity with you. But truth be told, you've actually made a robust contribution to this particular issue, and we're very happy that you're able to give us up to date bring us up to date with the latest that we're having from the meeting of the African Union. Thank you very kindly, the Senior Special Assistant to First Lady Aisha Buhari on Public Affairs and Strategy, Mohammed Sani Zoro. He is also a journalist and former lawmaker. Thank you very kindly.